Osborne. I see that we are in church because no one's in the front row. Let us start by rising if you are able, as we have our guest, Katrina Joan Lewis, come up and sing the Negro National Anthem.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of a new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won. God bless.
So, wow. She sings and people come flocking in. You're good. This is so wonderful to see so many people here for the premiere of the Black Patriots of Lexington. My name is Sean Osborne, and I am the host of the show, and this was my little brainchild that some people in the room were there for the musing, Cecil Cox, Karima Lewis, and of course, my lovely wife, Dorothea.
And the award winner.
2 times.
So for those of you who don't know, there's the guy and the one who matters. So, I am DB, Dorothea Gillum, and you know what I'm talking about. So, this is a 9-part series, and it's available through LexMedia on demand and YouTube channel starting tomorrow. So this is the premiere. So what's nice is that during these 9 episodes, I get to have conversations with some really smart and interesting people. And most of them are here tonight for the premiere, and then after the showing, you'll get a chance to talk to them. Not as long as I did, because those were long conversations, but for a little bit. What was important was for us to dig deep into these 11 Black Patriots. Who are these folks from Lexington, or who were in Lexington, that we should care about them on the 250th anniversary? And that's part of the discussion, is who and why, and some of them are, of course, as you see in the banners, were soldiers. Others were economic patriots, and others were eyewitnesses. Well, everybody has their role, and yet as you go through the series, you realize that they had a role, but they did not make it to the next level, which is to be remembered. And those who were remembered, it wasn't the full story. So before we talk about those patriots and go around the room and talk about these people, let's recognize some of the lovely people who you will see on screen. So as you walked around and ate your food, you also were supposed to look at the banners and the cake. Anybody look at the cake? It was food, of course you did. All right. Did anybody happen to notice the photographs around, right? Those were the production photographs that the folks from LexMedia took of these wonderful people. So, as I mentioned, as they call their names, you'll rise one by one. Dr. Robert Bellinger. Bob is a consultant with writing histories. Historical reenactor Emmett Bell Sykes could not make it tonight, but Emmett is a past president of the 54th Massachusetts Volunteer Infantry Company A. Stacy Frazier, assistant curator, Scottish Rite and Scottish. Historical sociologist, Dr. Zine Magubane from BC. Public historian, Margaret Michelet. Margaret also used to work as a historian for the National Park Service. Educator and master weaver extraordinaire, Michelle Parrish. Michelle is the School and Family Programs Coordinator at Historic Deerfield. Dr. Bill Poole. Dr. Poole was an historian, a Revolutionary War reenactor. What else were you? Oh yeah, he's a Korean War veteran, a really nice guy. And the past company commander of Lexington Minute. And then, did anybody recognize who was the model for the Prince Esterbrook banner back there? Anybody? Who? Charles who? Charles who?
Charles Price.
There you go. Charlie Price, the man who. We changed venues, so Charlie may come later. Charlie is another Korean War veteran, another past company commander, the Lexington Minutemen, and an all-around nice guy. Charlie Price. All right, so now to the banners. So, how do I start with the words? Let's start off with Pomp Blackman. So, Pomp Blackman over here is one of those folks who came to me through one of the folks who just finished clapping for, Debbie Bob Bellinger. So, Pomp Blackman had a name and a short story. And then, once you watch the video, you'll learn that he also amassed a small fortune in Lexington. You learn that after being enslaved next door in Woburn, he came to Lexington as a boarder, and he ends up making lots of money off of free white and black people in Lexington. Quite entrepreneur, because he also happened to know this guy named Miss Fortune. And what's interesting about Pomp Blackman is that you learn from Bob's research what you don't know. And that is that Pomp is a very popular name, Pompey, right? There's a lot of those out there. 2, black men also wasn't uncommon. 3, that you were going to find mistakes in the videos, the same way that Bob found mistakes in published online articles. And that's the beauty of what we do as public historians, as opposed to those professionals I mentioned, all those doctors, is that history really is a living document. You think you know it, you think you got it down pat, you have that story in your head, and then exactly, you have a different perspective. You tilt your head like a kaleidoscope, you go, oh, I hadn't thought about it that way. And that's the what I hope you take away from tonight and when you watch the programs, is that there's always more to learn, and the fact that somebody else got it completely wrong, or just slightly wrong, is what happens, right? It's the beauty of discovery, it's the beauty of looking back and going, oh, I have this other actual document, not hearsay, not a guess, that clarifies what really happens. Which brings us to Pompey Fisk. Pompey Fisk comes to us through the research of Bill Poole. Pompey Fisk is another person that, for me, if you go through the basic history of the Fisk Hill, the Fisk Battle, right? You know that one? There's a little monument, there's a little thing there, National Park Service. There's more talked about what he didn't do, which was stand there as a civilian between 2 warring armies, than what he did do, which was enlist almost immediately afterwards. So we have this conversation about who were the black soldiers and where were they and were they valiant? Yes, they were. Yes, they always were. So sorry you missed that story. But now you don't have to. Right? Pompey Fisk, sorry. Caesar Ferret and John Ferret. Father and son. When in doubt, spring day, take your child on a nice stroll to a battle. Anybody? But that's what they did. Caesar and John, Caesar's the father, John, took a stroll from Natick to Lexington, responding to the Lexington alarm. Exactly, it's a long stroll, right? And then they decided that, hey, while I'm here, I'll fire on some retreating regulars. And that made them well renowned. If you're in Natick and you happen to go to the Natick Historical Society website and read their nice stuff about them. Had anybody else done that? Anybody? No? Really? Yes. Yes. Okay, there's 2 of you. Okay, I know you live in Natick. What was your excuse? Okay. So the 2 Natick residents stumbled on it. They are buried in the praying Indian burial site. So if you're driving through, you think, oh, look at that. There are some nice Native American veterans, Revolutionary War, who happen to be black as well. So, right, there's the rest of the story. Paul Hardy was right. Okay, in the back corner we have the young man, Prince Estabrook, right? What I love about Prince Estabrook, and we'll see that in a few minutes, is that even I can surprise Charlie Price. Because again, there's always more to know. Back corner over here, who do you have? Prince and Kate Chester. It pains me to say it, but there was no better joy than having a conversation with Margaret Michelet again and again and again, getting the story right. Because Margaret is a stickler. And she loves those 2. How long have you been studying those? 4 years. And there's still more to know, and what I love about those two is she was doing them in their life somewhere else, but ever about Boxborough and Stowe. Nice places. But what they did here in Lexington, who they were, Prince as an enslaved person who got his freedom, had various odd jobs, then gets married. But before he gets married, he says, "Hey, honey, I love you, but could you, I don't know, get manumitted?" And she does. And because sometimes pack rats get it right, we still have a copy of what was written on the manumission papers. Right, so we got lucky. Thank you, Margaret. That's those two. That's episode 1. The next one is the running man. Who's that? Eli Burdew. Okay, so those of you who don't know, I love the Burdews. Yeah, no doubt. All right, so Eli Burdew and his cousin Silas. So go with Eli. Eli Burdew is great. This is where you get a chance to know what you don't know and then talk to people. Some of them are in the back left corner from the Lexington Historical Museums. Some of them are different people in this room who've said, "Did you know, have you thought about," and I thought I was there. And then along comes Dr. Magubani who says, "Well, actually," remember that kaleidoscope question, comment about turning your head? Right, you turn your head and you ask a sociologist why this happened. And it's very different when you ask an historian, or you ask somebody only concerned with the fact that Eli was in the Army and the Navy. So that's Eli Burdew. Then over here we have Venus Rowe. Venus Rowe is that eyewitness, right, on what's happening on April 19th. So for those of you who do not work for a museum and do not and are not otherwise a public historian or historian, have one easy question for you. When what's her name? John Hancock, right? And the Samuel guy with the drinking? Adams, right. When John Hancock and Samuel Adams are leaving Lexington, what do they bring with them? I hear it. What is it? Nah. No, what food do they bring with them?
The salmon.
Exactly. Right? So where do they go with the salmon? Where? Woburn. Burlington District, Woburn, yes, so where? Whose house?
James Reed.
I didn't ask you.
Oh,
And now you've seen the episode. No, so
carried away.
and it's right. She gets carried away. You must see the episode and learn more about Venus Rowe. She really is a lovely character. People should know more about her. Then we have Adam Tidd, an accident of history, because sometimes people wander into a room and say, "Did you know about so-and-so?" And you go, "I had no idea." Is that about right, Bill?
Yes.
Right, so Adam Tidd, Lieutenant Tidd, and that's you, right, Barry? Right, so come back with the small throng of a few million on April 19, and you'll see Captain Parker, and you'll also see Lieutenant Tidd, but you won't hear about Adam. And most of us didn't hear about Adam until someone in the family did some research and then told somebody else, and then, oh, look at that. We had other documents, we had connected the dots, but now we can. History, research, conversation. Adam Tidd. Silas Burdew. Love this man. Silas is the freeborn grandchild of Anne and Philip Purdue. Silas Purdue does what every good American patriot does during the war, which is fight as little as possible. And in the meantime, make some money. And he does. It is believed that Silas Purdue is, because of his long time of service, ends up being the last known survivor, black soldier survivor of April 19, 1775. And the richest. The combination. Right? Not bad. And so I love his story, and I love there's more about his story, and then when you talk to people about who was he and why was he, it's all over the place. Online, published, books that have been published in print, those things still exist. All of that you look at and you go, I think I know him, but then you don't. And so Silas Purdue, I love him not just because of he's part of the Purdue family, but also because there's so much that he does because he is a citizen of Massachusetts in the mid-18th century. He's just part of the community. And that's what all these stories are about, is all these people wandering through, whether they are indentured orphans like Eli, whether they are freeborn like Silas, whether they were enslaved and then found their freedom in Lexington like Pomp, or whether they were enslaved until 83 like Venus. They were all looking at building community. And community is very important. If you don't think it's important, then read a book that my good friend Karima Lewis gave me about Abijah Prince and the number of enslaved black people who committed suicide because they didn't have community. So it's important to build community with those around you. And before we start our episode on Prince Esterbrook, if you get a chance, look at the will of Eli Purdue's father, Moses Purdue. Moses was freeborn. Moses was a French and Indian War veteran. Moses lists all kinds of friends in his will, and nary is a black person. They have folks he went to church with, folks he served in the military with, folks that he would rather his child be raised by, folks that are part of his community. Then you talk to a reenactor who really cares about military history. He says, oh, and this is why he did that. This is what all of the privates did when thinking about their sergeants and their officers in their company. I'm like, oh, who knew? He did, but now we have another story. So here's the Prince Esterbrook episode. It's about, given the time at 7:30, we're gonna do probably the first half an hour of the episode, and then we're going to bring the folks up who you just clap for and have them answer your questions. So, Charlie's great, huh? So, I'm gonna make this easier, everybody. There's cake in the back. So, Margaret, Miss Chalet, Bill Poole. Bill? Eat his cake. Right, ready. All right. Z-Name Agabani. Michelle Parrish. Stacy Frazier. Make your way up front. We have chairs for you. Meanwhile, who has a question? Who starts off? Come on. Nobody here is shy.
Do we know how the black and white soldiers got along? And did they have separate units, or were they together? I'm wondering, how how that went.
They were not segregated. I was, one of the things I talked to someone before we started filming. Again, it's a community, so people are talking about, oh, I saw Prince. Oh, I saw Oh, I saw so-and-so in their letters back. These are fellow Lexingtonians they're talking about. I think, Bill, you talked about this as well during our filming. Do you want to address that? Black and white soldiers getting along in the field.
I can't say that I'm an expert on this at all, but I think like in any unit where you have people fighting by your side, the color doesn't matter. It's your buddies, and you're out to save each other and help each other to save their lives. So there were prejudices, particularly in the South, but in general, once you were fighting together side by side, you got along as well as you could.
Any other questions? Hold on. Keep the mic there, Bill.
So with, if I understand correctly, 20 or 25% of the soldiers being black, were there any black commanders, captains, whatever the right?
Officers and sergeants?
Officers, yeah.
Have you heard of any black officers and sergeants in the Revolutionary War?
No.
No, okay, yeah.
I found that very moving and very informative, and it sent chills up and down my spine because I'm a descendant from both sides of the war. The blacks who fought for the British and the blacks who fought for the American side. And I am 9th generation Massachusetts, and I've researched my family for about 30 years. And I have found this truly true. I just sat here almost breathless hearing this story because I've studied this for a long time. So that's my commentary on this.
Both sides. Yeah, both sides. And how'd that work out?
British lost, but
Some go to Canada? So some of his brothers that go to Canada. Yes.
I think you said something about one of the Purdue's fathers was in the French and Indian War.
Yes, Eli's father, Moses.
Okay, so he's in the French and Indian War, and this is the Revolutionary War. And we already know about World War II, Tuskegee Airmen, and we've been part of this history since the beginning of it. They're just trying to whitewash it like they're doing now.
That's right.
With trying to get us out of history, but we've always been part of history. We'll always be part of history.
And there are two things that you can do. Thank you. And there are two things that you can do to keep that history from being lost. One is, just in case something happens, you can always download to your computer the episodes from YouTube or from on demand. One. Two, you may have noticed that for the last 50 plus years, Charlie Price has been a reenactor with Lexington Minutemen.
Yeah.
You too, if you dare, can choose to be a reenactor or a storyteller. If you don't have the cash on hand to be Lexington Minuteman, who are just so finicky, then you can do it another way. Either way, if you want to be Lexington Minuteman reenactor, they're great people. Or if you want to be a storyteller, also good people. Come here on Saturday at 2 o'clock for a workshop. It's free, no food. It's free, but there are snacks about this. It is free. It's here at our Redeemer from 2 to 5 o'clock. We have 2 storytellers coming up from Rhode Island. Rochelle Coleman and Valerie Tutson, who've been doing this for a living for over 40 years each. Lovely people, great storytellers. Rochelle Coleman covers Black figures from the Revolutionary War to World War II, also does a Negro baseball player and a Buffalo Soldier and some cowboys. Valerie Tutson, on the other hand, does it the right way, which is she wears one costume and she creates the world with her words. So you get two different ways of how do you tell a story, how do you bring the history alive for your listeners. One with great costumes, one with great words and descriptions and using that space. Again, it's free, great opportunity to learn to be a reenactor or a storyteller, 2 to 5 on Saturday. One last question before we break and just really dive into the cake.
Could you please tell us what we would see if we watched the show that's coming up on Lexington, local origins? LexMedia, yes. Will we see this again, or will we see that something similar about some of these others?
Right, so, there you go. So there are 9 episodes. Yes, there are 9 episodes. The first episode is Kate Prince Chester. Second episode is this one. And then it goes through 3 through 9. The last episode is...
And they're all finished already.
All finished, yes. Oh, no, I'm happy.
Great. Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's a big job.
But since I'm sitting with historians that are dealing with a very important part of our American history that even in goodish times have been challenging, I'm just curious if you as historians can give us some sense and help on how we can make sure that these stories continue to be added to as opposed to removed or silenced. And so if you can, maybe just one or two of you maybe share what your thoughts are in this moment about how important keeping track of history and moving us forward is.
I'm not going to choose. I'm going to have all 6 of you answer the question and we'll kick things out. So start there, pass it down, and then I'll...
All right, I'll kick things off. I think that, as we all know, Sean is a force of nature and has kind of got this whole series off the ground, a lot of great Black history research he's been working on for a number of years. And I think one thing that Sean told me years ago was making the unfamiliar familiar is a big part of it. And he said you sort of become part of the story. So learning about families like the Purdue family, a free Black family in Lexington, and that doesn't subtract from what we already know, that adds to it. It helps us understand what Lexington was like in 1708 when Philip and Anne Purdue came here. They were Silas and Eli's grandparents. And Reverend Hancock baptized them. So just sort of adding to that story and helping understand how more information and sort of more richness of the Lexington story, the big story we all know, how you can add to it, and that doesn't subtract from anything else. It just gives a really good sense of what it was really like to be in Lexington, say, in 1775, when these big events happened.
Teach your children.
Amen.
Tell them the story again, and then tell them the story you told them.
Yeah, I'm not actually a historian, I'm an educator. I read history in order to teach, and something very similar. I do K-12 programming in school groups, and yeah, it's just, you just don't stop just because someone tells you you gotta stop. I don't know, just keep doing it.
I think in one of the most important.
No, switch.
Okay, that's better. I think there's such a temptation in these times to make the world like a Star Wars movie with clear villains and clear heroes. And I think what even the video we just saw is that life is a lot more complicated than that. People move through different roles. They are able to collaborate. They are able to find each other to be strangers and learn to get along when pursuing a common goal. And I just really think that in these troubling times, the urge to have this massive reversal of don't make people feel bad about the past, don't make people feel guilty about their race or ethnicity or what their ancestors did. I just think these stories are just so important to be told because the world is just not as simple as we are being encouraged to think that it is.
Well, one thing I would say is read.
Yeah.
Be inquisitive and read. We have these wonderful institutions called public libraries that have books in them, so you don't have to buy them all, but you can read, you can borrow books, you can go and look at the documents that they hold. Secondly, encourage your children to read. Get them books, buy them books, have books in your house, and support your local historical societies. They are repositories of many of these stories. The archives they hold are where we go to get the information. So support them, give money, go to them, go out to events like this that happen in your communities, and talk to each other, because community is very important in keeping alive the history.
I think what you've heard in all these previous remarks is community, working together. And we have two powerful things with us, our voices and our votes. And I think we have to make use of both of those because this is a dangerous time in our nation. I think most historians would agree that since the Civil War, this is the most divided we've been. And it behooves all of us to think of community, to think of togetherness, and think of activity. And again, voices and votes.
Thank you, everyone. One more time, round of applause for a great camp. Before we break everything down, please take pictures with the banners, take some cake, eat some cake, bring it with you. We have neighbors. And again, thank you very much. Tell somebody, watch it, share the links, share the history. Thank you.
Well, tonight was a really wonderful night. It was a great time for everyone to come together in Lexington, to have some real fun, to learn that history is alive and with us, to learn about the great diverse history of Lexington, and a great kickoff to, an incredibly important year for New England and the country.
Yes, I'm really excited to be here tonight for the ABCL banner unveiling. They do a wonderful job every year highlighting American black citizens from Lexington who have made a difference in the world. And this year's especially exciting because they have Patriots of Lexington that they're featuring, and really looking forward to watching the movie that they're going to be playing and seeing the banners go up in the center. It's going to make the town look more festive than it already does.
Tonight was a really significant evening. These programs are giving people an opportunity to learn about several black veterans of the Revolutionary War who were connected to the town of Lexington, known as the birthplace of American liberty. These stories are extremely important because they help us to have an understanding of the fullness of American history, but also help us to wrestle with that ongoing question of what is liberty and what is the meaning of liberty. which I think is essential for us to think about, especially today, given that there are so many different forces at work challenging the ideas that were born in the era of the American War of Independence. So it's important that we know these stories, that we hear these stories, that we pass them on, that we preserve them, and that we understand the complex tapestry that is America.
I think tonight was a very important conversation on the Black Patriots of Lexington, because we need to remember that we were here, the French and Indian War. Silas Purdue's father was in the French and Indian War, and we were in the Revolutionary War. We've been in every war since, from the Tuskegee Airmen, the Harlem Hellfighters, so many wars, and I don't think we would have won a war without the black people. Any war. We were in World War II, we were losing bad. the white fighter pilots were doing really bad. And they took the black ones, and all of a sudden they were doing good. I don't think we would have won any wars without them. They always send us first. They've always sent us first to go to war. And then they don't want to talk about us afterwards. I think that's sad. But we were in every single war, and we will always be in history. If you check it out, we're at the beginning of history. DNA is proving it. We all come from black people. That's the truth. DNA proves it.